Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm on the play, Six City. Wow, so this hand's actually really sweet. A little tricky to know exactly what to do on my first turn, though. I'm inclined to just play the Warden on turn 1 and just hope that I draw a third untapped land. And I think that's what I'm going to do. But it could obviously go poorly for me, depending on how things go. I think that I'm going to play the Llanowar Waste, because if I go Llanowar Waste and then Windswept Heath for plains, I'll be able to play Sandsteppe Citadel and a potential top deck Dromoka's Command on turn 3, which is a pretty nice sequence. So it's the slightly more painful way to do things, but above all else, I just want to give myself the best chance to use all of my mana perfectly. And typically, my life total is the thing that I worry about the least. So this is certainly looking to be a matchup where Dromoka's Command is good, but it's also looking to be a matchup where my life total could be in peril. Despite that, I don't really want to hold back. I don't really want to be scared of a 1-1, and I'll take my 3 damage to my opponent's at face and receive my 1 point to mine and not really worry about it. Wow, no play from my opponent, so that's pretty good for me. What's also pretty good for me is this top deck forest. I basically have no respect for this Servant of the Scale, and it's not like I'm gonna play my land tapped so that I can rush to Bearer of Silence. And Siege Rhino, generally speaking, when I have the option, I don't even really like to play Siege Rhino before Anafenza anyway. Anafenza in a lot of ways is like a planeswalker, and just getting it on the board earlier, it'll generate more and more value. So this is a situation where my opponent's in kind of a bad spot. You can really see how even though my opponent's deck is quote-unquote the more aggressive deck, his cards are looking a little lackluster. So one thing that is actually annoying about this is I do not have anything to do on this turn. I really expected my Anafenza to trade with something on his side of the board, but it is not. I could just play this Bearer of Silence. Considering he's at 6 and doesn't have access to that many flyers, this deck does play Abzan Falconer, which gives all creatures with +1/+1 counters flying. But if I do that, I may open up the door to that Mana Gorger actually getting big enough to do something in combat. So I think what I'm going to do is... Man, it's pretty tempting, because I can just go Bearer of Silence this turn, attack, next turn play Siege Rhino, he's at 1. So any misstep from him, and he's just a goner. So I think I'm just going to give him his counter on his Mana Gorger Hydra and play my Bearer without really worrying about it. And I think there's a good chance that I just end this game before my opponent has really done anything. Mana Gorger Hydra is a sweet card, but it takes a little bit of time to get going. If my opponent has a creature and a Dromoka's Command, he can get this Mana Gorger Hydra big enough to eat my Anafenza. But even still... Now my opponent's building a board. So does he have a Dromoka's Command? So that's kind of what he needs. My Flyer's going to be a pretty big threat. And there we go. Wow, and he goes after that? I mean, he does get to bash for 9, which is pretty sweet. I wonder if this means that he has an Abzan Falconer. Hmm. So, seeing as trample. Well, I really didn't think I'd be in this situation. I'm certainly happy that I didn't not play the bear, because my opponent would have made the same plays. Things probably wouldn't have been that much better for me. So, if I attack with both, my opponent's likely to just block with one of his ground creatures, but then that's, an equal amount of attacking power and toughness. I think basically my best shot is to just attack with this bear, not attack with the Warden, and play the Siege Rhino. And if I can just survive one more turn, I'll be golden, and if my opponent has a Abzan Falconer, then I'm dead. And that's basically what the game comes down to. Wow! Brutal! Oh! Alright, well, I'm super dead. Well, my opponent did not come out of the gates particularly fast, but he certainly made up for lost time. So in this matchup, this is a matchup where I feel a little more comfortable playing the control route. So a lot of times I'll take out the Surrak and I'll bring in the Gideon. Ultimate Price ends up doing Ultimate Price ends up doing a lot of work, so I like just bringing in the Ultimate Prices and taking out the Abzan Charm and the Valorous Stance. He does have Hangerback Walker, which can be a little annoying, but it's for the most part it's actually the other stuff that I'm more worried about. And then the Bearer of Silences can be a little on the weaker side, so I'm going to bring in the Wingmate Rocs. And then for the other Bear of Silence, I'll just bring in the Kalitas. So I just have a little bit more game in terms of grinding him out. And so now with this setup, all of my cards impact the board, which is kind of rule number one. I've got some really efficient removal for the matchup in terms of Ultimate Price and Dromoka's Command. And I have all my good elements to grind an opponent out and clog up the board. So I do have to worry about those Abzan Falconers, but other than that, there's not a whole lot that I'm afraid out of. But that was pretty impressive from my opponent. I thought I had a good draw. I think where things kind of fell apart was on my turn 4, where all I played was the 2-drop. This is getting a little scary. Certainly can't keep this hand either. Now Scryland at the top. So my hand's powerful, but still kind of makes me nervous. I'm going to play this Windswept Heath, but I don't think I actually want to crack it. I guess I do want to crack it because I have Gideon and Deathmist Raptor. So I have double white spells and double green spells. I definitely want to play my Anafenza. So it can be nice to give myself the marginal chance of not cracking it and increasing my odds of drawing a fetch land, or another land, excuse me. But I really do want the Canopy Vista in that situation. Now we have the old Anafenza Hangerback Walker lineup. I've always been on the Anafenza side of this. Now that's a great card. So if I don't have a land here, this can get really bad really fast. Ugh. Well, I think I'm just gonna Ultimate Price this plant, believe it or not. Hangerback Walker is at its best in conjunction with Nissa. So at least I get to, deal with that. And essentially what I did there was I traded my Ultimate Price for a Hangerback Walker, which isn't, the worst thing in the world, but I would much rather have had a Siege Rhino. A Siege Rhino there would have been fantastic. So that seems weird. Alright, that makes sense. Ooh. So it's a turn too late. But we'll see if it's still good enough. Having a creature with trample when you're trying to attack a planeswalker is certainly what you want. But if my opponent can just clog up the board and keep growing his Nissa, things will be pretty bad for me. So we'll see what my opponent's got. This is such a sweet card. Definitely one of the cards that I'm interested in for the upcoming set. Even a card that I've been interested in for this deck. In terms of, you know, moving forward and stuff like that. So I would like to play my Anafenza. I also would like to ultimate price this Abzan Falconer, but I think it's more important for me to just get more power and toughness onto the board. He's going to be able to cash in his Nissa and attack me for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and knock me down to 12. And if he has another Nissa, he could potentially knock me down to 8. But I think it's just the most important thing is that I develop my board. Also, it puts me in a good position because there's a pretty reasonable chance that if I draw another land, I'll be able to play both Anafenza and Ultimate Price. And if I draw a spell, well, at least I'm not flooding out, so. Ooh, that's really good. Wow, and he's leveling up. I guess that's because he expects the avatar to die. And he wants to be able to fly over. So I'm still at a pretty high life total. I'm actually not too worried by all this. Another Siege Rhino is certainly a nice draw, but the one thing that's a little annoying about that situation was I basically spent 4 mana for an ultimate price, which isn't particularly great. I really would rather have sequenced 2 spells that turn, whether it was, you know, having a land and casting the Anafenza, or having access to a 2-mana creature, a 2-mana removal spell. It's one of the reasons why I always try to push, like, play so many 2-mana creatures and so many. So now I'm pretty close to dead. So he can attack me for 6, 13, 14, 15. So technically, I'm not dead on my turn. I don't have any profitable attacks, so I think the only thing for me to do is just cast my Rhino and pray. Kind of lost my train of thought there, but basically what I was saying was just I like playing cheaper spells because playing 2 spells a turn is really good. A lot of people, like, that's an understatement, a lot of people know it, but I live by it. So Nissa kills me. Mana Gorger Hydra does not. So if I can... Oh, wow, he just played a 0 mana... Wow, he's just throwing away cards to get his Mana Gorger bigger? That seemed a little crazy. Let's see, now am I dead? 2, 6, 13, 14, 15, 18. So that kills me. Man, what a bummer. It's like I'm dead. So he has me dead on the dot. I think I just activate my Hissing Quagmire and attack with everything. It's not really going to go that well for me, but hanging around isn't really either. It'd be really nice if I could go into this combat with a Dromoka's Command. If I went into combat with a Dromoka's Command, things would be really good for me. But unfortunately, I do not have a Dromoka's Command. Don't really have any other options either. Man, my opponent really should have... I don't think he should have played those 0-mana cards, because it kind of lets the cat out of the bag. I guess having this Mana Gorger higher toughness is valuable. But... my opponent's done a lot of fancy things, and considering that I'm on a mulligan to 5, this is, hasn't been that bad. So I'm going to be able to clean up the board some, but things are going to be looking pretty bad from here on out. My opponent's going to be able to preserve his biggest creatures potentially. That's pretty annoying. I'm not going to be left with a whole lot, but at least I'll have one Siege Rhino left. Nope. I will be able to keep my land. I'm kind of light on lands. Alright, so I want you dead, because you're really annoying. And all I can kill there is the plant, so... and I could have done something like, only attack with the Hissing Quagmire, but there's a pretty good chance that I'd be dead anyway, because my opponent would he'd be able to block with one of the plants and then just cast one spell and win. So now I'm super dead. Oh man, that was a rough one. Well, hopefully we get him next time.